Good evening, T-Wolves. Mr. Quinton here with what we did in class today. So we are extending our discussion of culture this week by moving into culture regions. But before we did that, this is what we did today, folks. We went to, imagine if you were in first period, but of course you'd go to your particular period. You're going to go to quarter two. You're going to jump into week of November 2nd. And then head on down into Wednesday, where you will see that we do have a CNN 10 for you, ladies and gentlemen. You can click on this link right here. It will take you to the CNN 10 that we watched today in class. After you finish watching that, you can, of course, do your 5 to 7 sentences. Remember, folks, you do need to be focused on getting complete and complex sentences more than just trying to fill in these blanks, because we are going to be increasing from 7 to 10 complete and complex sentences pretty soon, and we will be taking away some of the sentence stems over time. Ideally, we will get all of them taken away by the end of the year, if not sooner. So you really do need to be focusing on these, all right? So make sure you get that practice in today while you can. After you finish your CNN 10, I was giving everyone in class 10 minutes to write about that. So try and just time yourself. Give yourself 10 minutes to write about the CNN 10 that you watched. And then after you have done that, you can jump into the digital notebook itself. So here is where we're at. It is culture regions, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. Look here, you will see to just simply complete the digital notebook on culture regions. Folks, remember, you need to read one slide at a time. Also, make sure you read half the slide. Think about it for a few moments and then read the other half of the slide. You can also use tools like Snap and Read as needed. Big point to note. Vocabulary alert. A culture region is one of our terms we're going to need. You're going to need to know that a culture region is an area of the world in which many people share similar beliefs, history, and languages. If we're wanting to see what that would look like here, this is the digital notebook itself. It discusses all the different culture regions, why they matter, which is, of course, so that you better understand other cultures and how they live and think. It's why it's important to know and understand that we can divide the world into regions according to culture. Again, here's our definition. It's highlighted in red here for you. A culture region is an area of the world in which many people share similar beliefs, histories, and languages. So that means that can tie into and spread to other aspects of life, such as religion, technology, jobs. It can go into the foods they eat and make. It can go into their clothing. It can go into building and architecture styles. There are lots of different ways that you can have a culture region be defined. It's important that you go through and take a look at all of the slides so that you can see this, what kind of map? Hopefully you said thematic map, and you can tell how to read this thematic map by reading the hopefully you said key or legend. By looking here, we can see all the colors, and you can see that there are indeed 7 different culture regions on the map. And if we are looking at the Eastern Hemisphere, that's right, folks, we got to build on what we did in geography, remembering those hemispheres. We've got at least 3 cultural regions in the Eastern Hemisphere. There's actually more than that. But we can look here real quick. We've got Africa, south of the Sahara. We have South Asia and East Asia, Australia, and the Pacific Islands. So there you go. You can figure that out from the inference of reading and understanding the map. Further into mapping regions, again, folks, this is where I want you to take your time and read. Break it down into just that one paragraph. Take a few moments to make sure you understand it before you move on. Break it down to the next paragraph and do the same thing. Get into that final paragraph. Don't try and rush through the slides. Go ahead and take your time to read. Move to how we can explain how culture regions can change. And again, big slide, lots of stuff going on here. So read just the first half. Give yourself a moment to digest that. Then move to the next half and finish reading that. The big key that you'll want to take a look at here is the word interdependence. Folks, if you think about Saudi Arabia for a moment, that is a place that is basically in the middle of the desert. And so you might ask yourself, why would anybody want to live there? Well, they have some of the world's largest oil reserves. Here we are in the United States. We are very dependent upon oil to make sure that we can run all of our technology, to build all of the things that we have, to help power our industries, to help fuel our vehicles. And so we go to the Saudi Arabia and say, hey, we want to buy that oil. And so now we, being dependent on their oil, need to buy it. However, they in Saudi Arabia get so used to buying to having us buy their oils. So they're selling us all their oil to us and other countries that they now need that money to help fund their way of life. And so now, if you picture two hands interlocking together, those would be your level of interdependence that you would want to think about here. That's what interdependence is. They depend on the money they receive from the oil. We depend on the oil. And that causes people in Saudi Arabia to go, we may not really agree with everything that America does or another country that they sell oil to, but boy, they sure do some things that we like, and maybe we should copy those things. And the same for us. We don't really necessarily like or agree with everything Saudi Arabia does, but there's a couple of interesting things that we might want to try and copy. And so they do. And now you can see how certain cultural traits get traded or move through this interdependence, and over time can cause culture regions to change, shift, grow, or shrink. There's even a fun little case study that you can read about here that talks about how there is a whole new level of Hawaiian language called Hawaii Creole English, and it was developed by children of different cultures who came together back in the 1800s for specific work purposes. And yet now we've seen a cultural change and a cultural shift because of that through their language. Finally, you can come down here and we can sum it all up. We can list at least 3 things that people in the culture region may have in common. If we go back to slide 3, we can see here that the culture region can have religion, technology, ways of earning a living, foods, clothes, styles. So any of those will work, right? So beliefs, history, technology, etc., right? Because there were at least 9 on there. Which continents have more than one culture region? Hopefully you can come back to slide 4 and see that North America, Africa, and Asia definitely have more than one culture region. So Africa, North America, and Asia. And even though we talked about interdependence, let me give you another one that will be very useful down the road. You can talk about migration, how people move across the world. Because with migration, when people move, they take their culture with them. If you chose interdependence or something else, and if there's something else that you would like to discuss, please feel free. But folks, that's all you have to do. And then you're all done. You can submit this. And as always, if you have any questions whatsoever, please come over here and send me a note in Schoology or send me an email. Thank you so very much. We'll be continuing our discussion of culture and culture regions, etc. tomorrow. And I look forward to seeing you then. Mr. Quinton, out.